Ryan, I would appreciate it if you could engage in a conversation with me. I find myself without any other options. I apologize for any inconvenience caused. I have experienced significant losses, including my employment and residence. I acknowledge that I made an error. I kindly request another opportunity. I am committed to resolving this issue effectively. Please specify your requirements. I did not provide a response to any of them. I was determined not to allow her to manipulate me into offering her another opportunity. She had made her decisions, and now she was facing the outcomes. A week later, I received an update from our mutual friend, Eric. Mia had contacted him, expressing her desire to stay with him for a period of time. Eric, known for his straightforward approach, promptly addressed the situation. He informed me that she is experiencing significant difficulties. She expressed her distress over the phone, indicating her uncertainty about how to proceed. I responded directly, clarifying that this situation does not fall within my responsibilities. Eric was not lacking in compassion. He was determined not to allow her to exert the same influence over him that she attempted with me. Chloe informed me that Mia ultimately secured a room in a dilapidated apartment located on the opposite side of town. She utilized her remaining savings to cover the first month's rent. However, after that, she found herself struggling to manage her finances. She secured a part-time position at a coffee shop. However, it fell short of meeting her financial obligations. Chloe remarked that she is struggling significantly. It appears that she has reached a particularly low point. The aspect that caught me off guard the most was the rapidity with which everyone distanced themselves from her. Mia had consistently been the focal point of her friend group, the individual who meticulously organized gatherings and fostered connections among her peers. However, now that she found herself in a difficult situation, assistance was notably absent. Tasha distanced herself from Mia completely, stating that she is no longer her responsibility. Rachel severed all connections, stating that she could no longer manage the ongoing drama. Even Chloe, who had made an effort to remain impartial, ultimately ceased communication with her. Mia had severed all her connections, and now she found herself in the position of having to reconstruct her life from the ground up. I would not be truthful if I claimed that I did not experience a degree of satisfaction observing her unravel. It was not my intention for her to endure hardship. Rather, it served to illustrate a significant point. Decisions lead to outcomes. Mia had spent years depending on others for assistance, but she was now confronting the consequences of her decisions. I was progressing forward. Each day seemed to bring me nearer to moving past all the turmoil. Mia found herself independent now, and truthfully, this was precisely the situation she required. I found it quite amusing. Are you in agreement with this approach? Is that your defense strategy? Rachel, she was actively engaged in the process. She made those choices, regardless of her state, and you remained passive in the situation. Rachel attempted to retract her previous statements. I believed it was not my role to intervene. It was your location. I lost my composure. You are her friend. A true friend would have intervened. She had limited comments following that point. At the conclusion of the call, she reiterated her apology and assured that she had communicated with Mia. I did not have high expectations. The subsequent domino to fall was Tasha. At that point, Mia's parents were actively managing the situation, so my involvement was minimal. It appears that Janet and Henry may have had a serious discussion with Mia after my departure from their residence, as she subsequently reached out to me over 20 times the following day. I did not respond to any of them. Subsequently, Tasha sent me a message, and her tone was decidedly unwelcoming. Ryan, could you please clarify what information you are sharing with others? Mia is currently facing challenges, and as a result, others are behaving unusually towards me. This needs to come to an end. I found myself smiling when I read that. Tasha was finally experiencing the pressure. I chose not to respond. Allow her to experience discomfort. The most notable moment occurred when Rachel disclosed the information to the remainder of their friend group. Rachel may have played a role in Mia's actions, but she was determined not to face the consequences alongside her. She began to distance herself from both Mia and Tasha, informing anyone who would listen that she was unaware of the full details of the situation and that she would not have endorsed it had she been informed. By the conclusion of the week, the narrative had gained widespread attention. Mia transitioned from being the enjoyable bride-to-be to becoming an outcast within her own social circle. A mutual acquaintance from their circle, Chloe, contacted me. While we did not share a close relationship, she consistently exhibited politeness and respect during our interactions in group settings. Her message was unexpected. "Hello, Ryan. I would like to express my sincere apologies for the challenges you are currently facing. I was unaware that Mia possessed such capabilities. Please feel free to reach out if you require any assistance." In the meantime, Mia continued her efforts to reach out to me. The communications had diminished in frequency, yet they had not ceased completely. "Ryan, I understand your frustration, but it is important that we have a conversation. I am committed to resolving this issue promptly. Please provide me with the necessary instructions." It was rather unfortunate. Her apology did not stem from any remorse regarding her actions. She expressed her apologies as her circumstances were deteriorating. Subsequently, Tasha and Mia experienced a significant disagreement. The situation began as a minor disagreement but rapidly developed into a significant argument. Tasha, frustrated with being held responsible for all issues, addressed Mia, stating, "Do not behave as if I compelled you to take any actions. Your commitment was unwavering. Cease adopting a victim mentality." Chloe learned of the altercation and reached out to me via text. Tasha and Mia have ceased communication. Tasha is informing others that Mia has utilized her as a scapegoat. The situation is disorganized. I experienced a sense of satisfaction. For years, Tasha presented herself as invulnerable, skillfully influencing others and creating turmoil. The most recent update I received from Janet indicated that Mia was experiencing significant challenges and was having difficulty stabilizing her life. Initially, I perceived it as merely emotional distress, characterized by tears, pleas, and the typical responses. As time went on, I began to receive information from mutual acquaintances regarding the extent of her difficulties. It seems that Mia's parents, Janet and Henry, have reached a critical juncture following our discussion. I was aware of their anger, but I did not anticipate the extent of their actions. According to my sources, Janet attempted to reason with Mia following my revelations. What is Mia's response? She held me responsible. She indicated that I had overreacted, suggesting that I should have been more understanding, and expressed that it was unjust for me to negatively impact her life due to a single mistake. That was not well received by Janet and Henry. They had consistently prioritized appearances, and the thought of their daughter's private matters being exposed to friends and extended family was their greatest concern. Upon recognizing that Mia was not assuming responsibility for her actions, they made the decision to ask her to leave the house. It was more than a mere threat. Her belongings were gathered, placed on the porch, and she was advised to refrain from returning until she demonstrated accountability for her actions. Given Janet's character, she likely expressed something along the lines of, "You are a source of embarrassment to this family." Mia attempted to remain with Tasha, but the outcome was not favorable. Following their intense disagreement, Tasha was not particularly inclined to allow her to stay on the couch. Tasha clearly expressed her desire to disengage from the situation, indicating that allowing Mia to stay with her would likely exacerbate the circumstances. Chloe informed me that Mia had contacted several other friends. However, the majority had already chosen to distance themselves. Rachel did not respond to her calls, and the others preferred to avoid potential conflict. By the end of the week, Mia was utilizing various temporary accommodations as she navigated her living situation. The financial repercussions impacted her significantly. Mia held a comfortable position in an office at a company that her father had assisted her in securing. Henry utilized his connections to facilitate her entry, and she has been maintaining a steady performance since then. However, following her parents' decision to expel her, Henry explicitly communicated that he would no longer offer her protection. It has come to my attention that Mia's manager had initial concerns regarding her work ethic. She had previously received a warning regarding her tardiness and lack of diligence on projects. When her personal issues began to affect the workplace, fueled by rumors from mutual acquaintances, the company concluded that she was no longer a valuable asset. She was terminated under the pretense of organizational downsizing. I must confess, upon hearing from Chloe about Mia's job loss, I experienced a sense of vindication. It was not out of a desire for her to experience hardship, but rather a reflection of the consequences of her own actions coming to light. For years, she navigated through life, depending on others to rectify her mistakes. At this point, she found herself without any form of support. I have been informed that Mia attempted to contact Janet and Henry once more following her job loss. She arrived at their residence, visibly distressed and pleading for a return, expressing that she had no other place to turn. However, they remained steadfast. At this stage, Mia had exhausted all available options. She was without employment, housing, or a support network. The communications from her were becoming increasingly urgent. They consistently behaved as if they possessed superior knowledge. The following day, I returned to the city and proceeded directly to the residence of Janet and Henry. I chose not to inform Mia of my plans, fully aware that her reaction would likely be quite intense upon discovering the truth. As Janet opened the door, her expression transformed, revealing a blend of relief and concern. "Ryan, I appreciate your presence here. What is happening? Mia has expressed significant concern for your well-being since yesterday." Henry occupied his customary chair in the living room, perusing a newspaper. He raised his gaze upon hearing my voice. "Ryan," he acknowledged with a nod. "We appreciate your presence. Could you please provide us with an update on the situation?" I entered and took a seat on their immaculate couch. I approached to convey the truth, I stated, maintaining a composed tone. "Please take a moment to prepare for what is to come." Janet appeared perplexed yet took a seat opposite me, her hands clasped together. Henry leaned forward in his chair, his brow furrowed in concentration. I retrieved my phone and accessed the folder containing the evidence. "Mia has been dishonest with you, as well as with me. The wedding has been cancelled due to her actions at the bachelorette party." Janet inhaled sharply. "Could you please clarify your statement? What actions could she have taken that are so severe?" I provided her with my phone. "Please take a moment to view this." She paused, glancing between me and the screen. She proceeded to hit play. Her expression transitioned from uncertainty to alarm as the video played. She whispered, her voice trembling, "This cannot be genuine. Please confirm that this is not a reality." Henry rose to his feet, his expression flushed with frustration. "What is happening? Please allow me to examine that." Janet presented him with the phone, tears cascading down her cheeks. As Henry observed, his jaw tightened, and his hands grasped the edges of the phone with such intensity that it seemed he might break it. "This is what she did," I stated, my tone composed yet assertive. "She not only betrayed my trust, but also turned the situation into a spectacle, with her friends providing encouragement throughout the process." Janet concealed her face in her hands, overwhelmed with emotion. "I find this hard to comprehend. I am quite surprised by her actions." Henry walked back and forth in the room, his fists tightly clenched. "That young woman, that troublesome young woman," he muttered. "We have instilled better values in her than this. What was she considering?" "She was not considering the implications," I stated. "She is now seeking my forgiveness, but I have reached my limit. I believe it is important for both of you to be informed of the situation, as I will not be addressing the consequences of her actions." Janet raised her gaze to meet mine, her eyes tinged with redness. "Ryan, could you please consider having a conversation with her? It is possible that an error occurred. It is possible that she faced external pressures." I interrupted, stating that she was not under any pressure. "She has made her decisions, and I will not invest my future in uncertainty regarding whether she will repeat them." Henry ceased his pacing and directed his attention towards Janet. "This is the outcome when she chooses to heed Tasha's advice over ours. I informed you that Tasha posed a challenge." I did. Janet acknowledged with a nod, gently wiping away her tears. "It would have been prudent to express our thoughts. We should have intervened to prevent her from moving in with you. This situation might have been avoided." I found the irony quite amusing. "Do you believe that my decision to move in with her was the issue?" I inquired. "Your focus on propriety has obscured your view of the underlying issue. I am reckless. She has exhibited a pattern of recklessness for an extended period, and she is now facing the consequences of her actions." Henry resumed his seat, shaking his head in disbelief. "Incredible. Truly remarkable." I rose to my feet. "I apologize for bringing this to your attention, but it is now your responsibility to address it. She is likely to seek your assistance, and you will have the opportunity to determine the appropriate course of action. I have reached my decision. Janet took hold of my arm as I approached the door. Ryan, I kindly request that you keep this information confidential. Consider the implications for our family's reputation. I withdrew my arm with care. I am no longer concerned with that matter, Janet. You will need to address that matter independently. As I drove back to the resort, I experienced a distinct sense of closure. For years, my parents have regarded me with disdain, treating me as though I were unworthy of their daughter. The truth is now known to them. Their exemplary daughter had single-handedly disrupted everything. Later that evening, I received another voicemail from Janet. Greetings, Ryan. This is Janet. I am at a loss for words. Henry and I are deeply saddened. We addressed the situation with Mia, and she is currently experiencing significant distress. She mentioned that she is unsure how to resolve this issue, and frankly, we share the same sentiment. We sincerely apologize for the situation. If you wish to discuss anything, please know that we are available to assist you. The message has been deleted. Mia was capable of managing her relationship with her parents at this time. I had completed my tasks. Allow her the opportunity to articulate her perspective to them. Allow them to take responsibility for the situation. I was no longer her source of security. The truth was disseminated swiftly. Following the revelation to Mia's parents, I opted to expand the circle of communication. I did not act with vindictiveness. Perhaps to a slight extent. It was essential for individuals to understand the true nature of my team and me. If I remained silent, they would likely disregard it as if it never occurred. That approach was not acceptable. I initially contacted Rachel, who is among Mia's closest friends. While she did not exhibit the same degree of chaos as Tasha, she was present that evening. She participated, encouraged Mia, and likely perceived it as innocent entertainment. I was not providing her with any leniency. I communicated with her via a brief message. Rachel, I am aware of the events that transpired at the Bachelorette party. I possess the videos and messages to substantiate my claims. Let's have a conversation. It's important that we address this matter directly. Rachel contacted me shortly after, her voice unsteady, as if she were taken by surprise. Ryan, could you please clarify what this is? Could you please share the source of this information? Is the source of acquisition significant? I stated, maintaining a composed tone. Your presence was noted. You observed everything. She hesitated momentarily before expressing her thoughts. I was unaware of the severity of the situation, understood? I initially perceived it as merely dancing and flirting. I was unaware. Were you not aware that she left with 3 individuals? I interjected. Were you aware that she was unfaithful to me in the presence of everyone? Rachel paused in silence for a moment. I initially believed she had disconnected the call, but then I heard her sigh. I apologize, Ryan. I regret not speaking up, but it was beyond my control to intervene. Mia expressed her concerns regarding the monotony of marrying you and indicated her desire for one final enjoyable evening. Hello, this is Ryan. We need to discuss Mia. Please join me at the coffee shop located on 7th Street tomorrow at noon. She replied in under 5 minutes. Are you all right? Is Mia doing well? Could you please provide more details regarding this matter? I did not respond. The following day, I returned to the city by car. I parked a few blocks away from the coffee shop and waited. As anticipated, Tasha entered precisely on schedule, exuding her characteristic confidence. She was dressed in her signature ensemble, featuring a vibrant pink blazer, heels that appeared challenging to navigate, and sunglasses worn indoors. Timeless Tasha. I entered a few minutes later and took a seat across from her. Her expression shifted to one of surprise upon seeing me, followed by a smile. Ryan, your message was quite alarming. Could you please clarify what is happening? I utilized my time efficiently. Please be straightforward, Tasha. I am aware of the Bachelorette party. Her smile became rigid. Could you clarify what you mean? I leaned forward and lowered my voice. Regarding the flash drive, the videos, and the package you left on the doorstep, I am fully aware of everything. She looked at me for a moment, then let out a nervous laugh. Please, Ryan, it's merely related to the Bachelorette party activities. Are you genuinely troubled by that situation? Clearly frustrated, I remarked while leaning back in my chair, that is an understatement. What type of best friend would support someone in cheating on their fiancé and subsequently provide them with a highlight reel? Her complexion flushed. She responded promptly, clarifying that it wasn't the case. The evening was enjoyable, with no negative consequences to report. I retrieved my phone from my pocket and accessed the screenshots I had saved. I presented it across the table, displaying the messages she had sent to Mia. You truly commanded the stage, showcasing your exceptional presence. There is no need for guilt. This is your final opportunity to attain freedom. Her eyes widened as she attempted to return the phone to me. Ryan, it seems you are approaching this matter with excessive seriousness. It is simply a matter of tradition, as you may understand. Every bride is entitled to an unforgettable evening. Tradition, I stated, my voice elevating slightly. Is that the term you use? It appears to me that you were encouraging her throughout the entire situation. Tasha exhaled softly and reclined in her chair, folding her arms across her chest. I want to clarify that I did not compel her to take any action, understood? She is an adult and has made her own decisions. You were right there supporting her, I responded. You were expected to support her, Tasha. Instead, you assisted her in discarding everything we established together. She expressed her disbelief with a roll of her eyes. Her feelings for you are genuine. It was merely a brief encounter. It is possible for you to move beyond this situation, as it has triggered a strong reaction in me. I struck my hand on the table, causing her to startle. Advance beyond this. Do you believe I can simply overlook her involvement with 3 individuals because you refer to it as a one-night affair? Your actions are truly remarkable. She surveyed her surroundings with a hint of apprehension, likely concerned about the attention from other patrons. Very well, she stated, softening her tone. I apologize if the situation escalated. However, Ryan, this matter is solely between you and Mia. Please refrain from involving me. I indicated that you are already involved, as I rose to my feet. Rest assured, Tasha, your true character as a friend will become evident to all. Her eyes expanded in surprise. Could you please clarify what that signifies? I indicated that the information would be revealed shortly, as I took my phone and exited the premises. During the return journey to the resort, I reflected on her remarks. She is an adult and has made her own decisions. While I was inclined to hold Tasha accountable for various issues, she was correct in one respect. Mia had indeed made her own choices. Mia had the choice to decline, despite Tasha's encouragement. The notion was unsettling. I had always perceived Mia as a fun and carefree individual, but I now understand that her behavior was merely reckless. Tasha may have been the catalyst, but it was Mia who ignited the passion. Upon returning to the cabin, I began composing an email. I was not prepared to address Mia at this time, but I aimed to ensure that Tasha could not manipulate the narrative to her advantage. I have attached the screenshots and videos to the email and forwarded it to several of our mutual acquaintances. Only those individuals whom I had confidence in to maintain discretion until I was prepared to disclose the complete narrative. I did not receive any communication from Tasha following that meeting, though I was not taken aback by this outcome. She likely understood that there was nothing she could articulate to rectify the situation, and frankly, I was indifferent. She was no longer my responsibility. At that moment, I was certain of my next step, to contact Mia's parents and reveal the entire situation. To clarify, Mia's family has always maintained a traditional conservative atmosphere that often left me feeling as though I was under scrutiny. When we cohabited 3 years ago, her mother, Janet, behaved as if we were involved in some sort of clandestine affair. While she did not explicitly state it, her frequent remarks suggested that living together before marriage is considered inappropriate. Her consistent expression of disappointment whenever I brought up our apartment clearly conveyed her feelings. Her father, Henry, maintained a more reserved stance on the matter, yet his disapproval was evident. He would express his discontent whenever the topic arose, often remarking, "In my time, we approached things differently." It was only after Mia and I became engaged that they began to show a more positive attitude towards me. After the ring was placed on her finger, Janet began organizing bridal showers, while Henry extended his assistance with a down payment for a house. It felt as though I had successfully navigated an unseen evaluation, and at last, I had proven my merit. However, following all that transpired, I found it impossible to withhold the truth any longer. Mia had betrayed me, and now it was her opportunity to confront the consequences, particularly with her parents, who had been quite self-satisfied regarding her perceived perfection and propriety. They consistently provided her with emotional and financial support, given their considerable wealth. Mia's messages and phone calls have been incessant since my discussion with Tasha. Ryan, I would appreciate your response. I understand that you are feeling upset, but it is important for us to have a conversation. I care for you deeply, and I hope you will not lose faith in our relationship. Each message provoked my frustration. She cannot assume the role of a victim, as she made her own decisions. I had not replied to any texts or calls, and I had no intention of doing so. However, I received a message from Janet asking, "Ryan, what's going on? Mia is in a difficult situation. Please contact me. We have concerns." I contemplated the message for some time before concluding that it was necessary to address this matter in person. I would not be the one to handle matters concerning Mia. Allow her parents to manage the situation. She may retain the couch, the television, and the kitchen appliances. She is welcome to have everything. I sought an exit. While preparing my belongings, I came to the realization that I had not previously engaged in an experience of this nature. I have consistently been the individual who meticulously organizes every aspect down to the finest detail. Holidays, professional commitments, and leisurely weekends. However, I found myself packing various items into a bag without a definitive strategy, driven solely by the desire to escape this situation. I took out my phone and began researching accommodations. I preferred not to stay at a conventional hotel. The atmosphere was excessively cold, strikingly reminiscent of reality. I required a space where I could reflect, gather my thoughts, and determine my next steps. I discovered a quaint resort located approximately 2 hours from the city. The establishment may not have been extravagant, but it appeared serene, and they had availability on short notice. Excellent. I contacted the establishment and secured a room for a week, making the payment in advance, without concern for the cost. The cost seemed minimal in exchange for a sense of reassurance. Prior to my departure, I retrieved a folder from my desk that contained all the wedding contracts. I had no intention of financing a wedding that was not going to take place. I prioritized the venue, so I made a call as I exited the premises. "Hello, this is Ryan," I stated, attempting to maintain a composed demeanor. "I would like to cancel a reservation for a wedding." The individual on the other end expressed a sense of surprise. "I regret to learn that. May I inquire about the reason?" I refrained from sharing my personal matters with a stranger, opting instead to say that there had been a change of plans, as life can be unpredictable. She elaborated on the cancellation fees, explaining that they would retain 20% of the deposit, among other details. I was indifferent. "I acknowledge that," I said. "Please proceed with the cancellation." Having completed that task, I entered my vehicle and commenced driving. I did not glance back at the apartment. The journey to the resort was truly remarkable. I found myself operating on autopilot, adhering to the GPS directions while my thoughts revisited the contents of that flash drive. Was it merely the party atmosphere, or had she been concealing this aspect of herself throughout our entire relationship? I made a brief stop at a gas station midway to purchase some snacks and water. As I was completing my payment, I noticed my phone vibrating in my pocket. I could recognize her presence without needing to glance over. I disregarded it, yet the buzzing persisted. Communication continues consistently, with ongoing discussions and interactions. It is likely that she returned home and noticed my absence. I have not yet been able to read the messages. I was unprepared for the justifications, the insincere emotions, or the explanations that it was misinterpreted. I activated the silent mode on my phone and continued driving. The venue was compact yet ideal. A spacious king-sized bed, a compact kitchenette, a cozy fireplace, and a deck with a view of the lake. It seemed like a distant realm from all that I had departed. I placed my bags in the corner, took a seat on the edge of the bed, and released a long, unsteady breath. For the first time all day, I became acutely aware of the significance of what had just transpired. This was more than a mere conflict or separation. I had departed from my fiancée, my residence, and the future I believed I was constructing. I dedicated the remainder of the day to unpacking, though it felt unusual to have my belongings in this unfamiliar environment. I anticipated Mia would call out from the other room or inquire about my dinner preferences. Each minor noise startled me, as if she might enter at any instant. Upon settling down to enjoy the sandwich I had prepared from the snacks I brought, I took a moment to check my phone. Mia made over 20 missed calls and sent numerous texts. They began in a relaxed manner. "Hello, where are you located? Did you travel somewhere without informing me? Please inform me of your return schedule." They became anxious. "Ryan, this is not amusing. Could you please indicate your current location? Are you doing well? Could you please explain why your items are no longer available? What is happening? I kindly request that you contact me at your earliest convenience. I would appreciate clarification on the current situation, thank you." I did not provide a response. I opted to contact my parents instead. My parents are individuals who refrain from inquiring unless it is absolutely necessary. Upon informing them of my decision to part ways with Mia and cancel the wedding, my mother responded with, "All right, dear. Would you like to share what transpired?" I maintained a level of ambiguity. "She did not align with my expectations," I remarked. My father remarked, "Well done, son. It is preferable to discover this information at this stage rather than at a later time." I appreciated that they did not press me for details. I informed them that I would be staying at a resort for a while to gather my thoughts, and they expressed their unwavering support for my decision. The initial evening at the cabin was unusual. I anticipated that Mia would enter assertively, seek clarification, or find a way to persuade me to return. I reflected on the considerable time and effort I invested in our relationship, including organizing dates, budgeting for the wedding, and making compromises regarding her enthusiasm for Tasha. What is the purpose of this? For her to jeopardize everything in a single night of celebration. By the time I retired for the evening, I had firmly resolved not to return. Not for her expressions of sorrow, her contrition, or her commitments. This marked the conclusion, and I accepted that outcome. I have been contemplating one particular matter, Tasha. She was not merely an innocent bystander in this situation. She was undoubtedly the leader of the group. The video served as more than a mere spontaneous capture of the evening. It resembled an accolade, an achievement she was eager to display. The note on the package was entirely warranted, and you received exactly what was due. It was essentially an admission. Tasha consistently created a sense of discomfort for me. Upon beginning my relationship with Mia, Tasha was among the initial individuals I encountered within her social circle. She was quite vocal, frequently employing sarcasm in her humor, and consistently sought to be the focal point of attention. Mia perceived herself as humorous and entertaining, whereas I found her to be rather bothersome. Throughout the years, I have developed a level of tolerance towards her due to her close relationship with Mia. I have always had reservations about her trustworthiness. Upon reflection, there were indicators of concern. Tasha frequently encouraged Mia to go out, even when we had prior commitments. On several occasions, Mia returned home at 2 in the morning, accompanied by Tasha's laughter in the background, exclaiming, "Apologies for taking your girl, Ryan." I previously dismissed it with humor, but it no longer seems amusing. At the resort, I chose to address the situation with her, not Mia, not at this moment. I sought clarification from the individual who instigated this entire situation. I opted not to contact Tasha directly, so I utilized a burner number app to send her a vague yet enticing message. Mia and I, both now 30, met when we were 24. We attended a birthday celebration for a mutual acquaintance. I recall observing her from a distance, laughing at a remark made by someone, and I thought she was the most beautiful woman I had ever encountered. She possessed an engaging energy that drew people to her presence. By the end of the evening, we found ourselves on the patio engaged in a discussion encompassing various topics such as music, films, travel, and aspirations, and I was captivated. We began our relationship a few weeks later and cohabitated after a year. The situation appeared to be favorable, or at least that was my initial impression. While Mia enjoyed social gatherings more than I did, I always perceived her activities as relatively moderate. I believe we complemented each other effectively. I provided stability, while she introduced an element of enjoyment. When I made my proposal last year, I was confident that I had discovered my lifelong partner. She became emotional when I inquired, and her response was a prompt affirmative. We dedicated several months to meticulously planning the wedding, selecting venues, sampling cakes, and discussing the decision regarding an open bar. I believed we were constructing a future together, but it seems I was mistaken. The situation commenced with a package, an unexpected package, to be precise. I was not scheduled to be at home during that time. My shift concluded ahead of schedule, and I thought it would be a pleasant surprise for Mia if I returned home to prepare dinner. Upon arriving at the apartment, I noticed a small gift bag positioned at the door. It featured a shimmering tag that stated, "To the most adventurous bride-to-be, you deserve every moment of it. I have a strong appreciation for Tasha." Initially, I did not give it much consideration. Tasha was Mia's closest companion, consistently by her side since their college days. I have always perceived her as somewhat excessive, boisterous, theatrical, and the type of individual who flourished in chaotic environments. I endured her presence for Mia's benefit. Mia consistently characterized them as an entertaining pair. Nonetheless, there was an aspect of that note that elicited an unusual sensation within me. I placed the bag on the kitchen counter and observed it for several minutes. My thoughts were oscillating, though it is likely inconsequential. What is the reason for this unusual sensation? I made the decision to open it. I reassured myself that it wasn't an invasion of privacy, but rather a matter of curiosity. Furthermore, it was intended for Mia yet was left exposed in that manner. Essentially, it serves as an invitation, correct? Inside, there were the customary elements of a bachelorette party: a plastic tiara, a sash proclaiming the bride's last ride, and an abundance of glittery confetti that scattered throughout the space. However, upon reaching the bottom of the bag, I discovered a pair of men's boxers that appeared to be used and not freshly laundered. I felt a sense of unease, yet I attempted to approach the situation with logic. It could potentially be a humorous gift, perhaps intended as a light-hearted jest. Subsequently, I observed the flash drive. I am uncertain about what prompted me to investigate its contents. I found myself feeling unsettled by the boxers, and the way the bag suggested a chaotic evening did not align with my expectations. I connected it to my laptop and accessed the soul file contained within. The video commenced in a seemingly straightforward manner. Mia and her friends were seated in a booth at a club, engaging in laughter and celebration. The camera shook slightly while focusing on Mia, adorned with a tiara and sash. She appeared stunning, as usual, yet there was an unusual quality to her energy. She was not merely celebrating, she was experiencing a heightened state of joy, seemingly free from any concerns. The subsequent clip marked the beginning of a decline. Mia was performing on a stage at a venue that was unmistakably a strip club, engaging in a dance with a male performer while her friends cheered enthusiastically. Initially, I considered it to be a bachelorette party. It's not ideal, but it's not insurmountable. However, the camera captured her as she gracefully guided the performer off stage, sharing a light-hearted moment while directing him toward a private area. I paused the video, feeling a surge of adrenaline. I reminded myself to maintain composure. Perhaps it was merely for appearance, wouldn't you agree? It is possible that she entered, enjoyed herself, and then exited. However, I was aware of the facts. I had an understanding all along. The subsequent clip eliminated any uncertainty. Mia was observed seated in a lounge area, accompanied by 3 gentlemen. The atmosphere was lively with laughter, drinks in hand, and playful banter, but the evening unfolded further. One of them leaned in and kissed her, and she not only accepted the gesture but reciprocated it as well. Subsequently, another individual became involved. At the conclusion of the video, she was guiding all 3 individuals into what appeared to be a hotel room. The presence of Tasha's voice in the background exacerbated the situation. She was sharing the entire story with laughter. "Mia, you are truly remarkable, the epitome of a bride this year." I remained seated, gazing at the screen, experiencing a profound sense of vulnerability. This was not the individual with whom I had shared the last 6 years of my life. This is not the Mia who would fall asleep on my chest while we enjoyed light-hearted romantic comedies. This was not the Mia who expressed her enthusiasm about beginning a family with me. Mia returned home that evening as if nothing had occurred. She greeted me with a kiss on the cheek, inquired about my day, and proceeded to discuss how Tasha had the most innovative ideas for wedding decorations. I acknowledged the situation with a nod and a smile, maintaining the appearance that all was well. However, internally, I had reached my limit. I found it challenging to engage with her without the video replaying in my mind. I regret not recognizing it earlier. Were there any indications? Did I overlook them, or was this the initial occurrence? I was unaware, and frankly, it did not concern me. The individual I believed I was entering into a marriage with is no longer present. That evening, I was unable to rest. I remained awake, gazing at the ceiling, repeatedly reviewing the video in my thoughts. Each laugh, each kiss, each touch was experienced with a piercing intensity. I felt the need to address her directly, to express my frustrations, and to seek clarity. However, I was aware that it would not alter the outcome. The following morning, Mia rose early to prepare for her workday. She placed a gentle kiss on my forehead before departing and remarked, "I look forward to seeing you this evening." I smiled and responded, "Me too." As soon as Mia departed for work, I began my tasks. I did not take the time to sit down for coffee or reflect on my actions. I retrieved my duffel bag from the closet and commenced the packing process. Apparel, personal care items, my laptop, chargers, and any other essentials I could accommodate without creating disarray. I had no intention of returning, so I did not spend time deliberating on what to bring or what to leave behind. I recognized that the furniture did not justify the effort involved, and I had little interest in the majority of the communal items.